Got Elcon here with the writer-director of Sweet Candy, Nicholas Peate.
How are you?
Good, good. Where did the script idea come from? Where did this story sprout from? How did you decide to make this? Because this is your feature film debut.
Yeah, it is. It is. I hadn't made anything before that. I made a short film. I didn't have any background in film at all. I didn't go to school for it. I didn't actually, and I was just kind of not really doing anything, just odd jobs, and decided I had to maybe, bring some focus to my existence. So I decided to make a short film, and then somebody saw that who said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I don't know. I mean, I think maybe I want to, try to make a bigger film." And they were in a position to help me, so they said, "Okay, you should do that." So, it was kind of like ass backwards. It's not like I had this, insane, burning desire to write a script and then chase the money to find it. It kind of went the other way around. So, so then I was forced to write something. So it was, so I tried to, and of course writing's not easy. So it took me a while to kind of like patch together something. And some of it was loosely, very loosely autobiographical. Other parts were that I'd been spending quite a bit of time in New Orleans. I liked it down there. I like, just like the vibe, and it's art directed without having to do anything. So I kind of got this notion that I would shoot something in New Orleans. I was interested in prison culture, just for various reasons, and so it sort of just came together like that. It wasn't one thing. It's like I have to write this story, and
that's why I was asking, because it not disjointed, but
yeah, it has a kind of impressionistic quality in a way. I mean, I think that to some degree is it's weird. I mean, I definitely like realism, and I like the idea of sort of cinema verite. I love all that kind of like Italian, neorealism of the 50s and all that kind of stuff. I like that idea of just sort of bringing a camera into a live situation, if you know what I'm saying. But I also do like sort of heightened reality and sort of, not surrealism, but that sort of like, almost like that kind of Lynchian thing of, things are very orchestrated. And so it's like combining those two things, and also just finding my feet as a storyteller. It's hard. It's like you got to, and quite often you do something and then you can reflect on it. It's not that easy to just make something, and when you're making it, know what it is. So it was kind of a combination of those things, and just sort of knowing you want to do something, but working it out as you're doing it. So, yeah.
Looking at the casting, when did you know you found your Val and your Candy, and what was that process like?
I mean, it was interesting. I kind of fished around for a long time. I was originally thinking of just kind of finding kids, just like in New Orleans. I went to Noka and saw if I could, or tried to see if I could just kind of pull a couple of kids out of Noka, and started also by just putting ads in papers and just kind of snooping around. I mean, in a way, that's one of my strengths, is just to kind of find things, and some of that was sort of successful. I mean, there was various stages of where I thought there would sort of money was coming into it and not coming into it, and I wasn't ever quite sure for a while what the budget of this thing was going to be. So I snooped around, and then when it seemed like the money was sort of secure, or part of the money was secure, it took a kind of a little bit of a bump up, and I eventually found a casting agent, and which brought good things and also brought bad things in terms of just sort of, we had a few issues in terms of particularly the leads, which was strange, because she, without telling you who it is, she had brought some people in, and even with Val, it was pretty, we'd got down to a couple of people, and I was pretty adamant on Brendan, who ended up being Val. And just because there was something about him that was sort of a little bit unpredictable for me. And, and she was pushing very hard for somebody else. And so it created a little bit of tension in terms of like, you know, there's always politics and stuff like that. But that's how I eventually found him. I found him in LA.
Wow.
And same with Gentile.
Well, how did, kind of fleshing it out a little bit, how did you find Charles and then Reg? I mean,
that was interesting. I mean, you know, again, it was part of this whole thing of like, you know, I hadn't made a movie, so I was sort of finding, and didn't have any contacts in the film industry. So a lot of it was just me somehow kind of just randomly contacting people, and I ended up asking, not a friend, but a friend of a friend who was an actor, and said, I've got this script, can you read it? So he read it and he said, okay, I've got a friend who's running a theater in New York. Let's take it to him. He's, you know, he was a established actor, and he's like, okay, I kind of like it. You're a little crazy. I don't know what the hell you're trying to do, but I'll help you. And so he actually was friends with Reg, and he's like, I'll get Reg to read this. And it's like, in fact, I'll try and get Reg to do this. So it was interesting because I didn't really even know who Reg was, you know, and it took a while to develop it. So, you know, we did readings, and then the script was sort of changing, and it was going to go ahead, and then we kind of backed off doing it for a while. And so, but Reg was kind of there from the beginning, and so you know, huge props to Reg just to stay with the project. And he didn't really know what the hell it was, and it's like, you know, what are we doing? We're going out to like Louisiana, we're going to shoot in a prison, or, you know, and it was, but he was, yeah, Reg was great, you know.
Well, not just any prison. Let's jump into that final question. Let's tackle Angola.
Angola, sure, yeah.
What the hell experience? I mean, everyone knows it is a state penitentiary, but it's its own beast. There's San Quentin, but then there's Angola.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother world.
Yeah.
What did you see? What did you feel? What were you able to? What was that like?
No, I mean, Angola, yeah, it certainly is its own beast. I mean, I didn't have any fear of prisons just because, you know, there's a prison in the film, so the big question was, where were you going to shoot? You know, so it's like, where do you find a prison? And also, not one of those situations where it's like, okay, we'll give you an old cell block that doesn't work, and we'll, you know, round up some extras and put them in prison gear, and, you know, act like, you know, you've killed somebody, and, you know, you're tough and all this kind of stuff. It's like, I wanted to go into, like, you know, a working prison and put this kid in with the inmates. I mean, everybody who was in the film, all the inmates were inmates. So I'd heard about Angola. I'd heard I'd been going down to New Orleans, and I had a friend who kind of had some contact with them. I went there, and it was a long kind of negotiation. It was like a long process. I mean, a year and a half of just kind of getting to know them, you know, trying to explain to them that, you know, what this was. It wasn't a big film, and they still couldn't quite wrap their minds around that. You know, they'd had a couple of big films going there, and they're like, "Is this a big film?" I'm like, "It's not a big film. It's just this sort of thing, and I want to bring this kid in there, and I want to put him in with the inmates." They're like, "Well," you know, and so. But there were a couple of assistant wardens there who were fantastic and who were on my side. There was one who wasn't, and it's like, who was this guy and what the hell is he trying to do? But for the most part, they were kind of pretty amazing. So, and the prison, you know, itself, or prisons, I've had a few friends who have definitely been locked up, and who I've been quite close to. And as I said, I was interested in prison culture, and, you know enough about it, and you know, have a sort of a, I mean, prisons are like hothouses. I mean, they're kind of incredible in terms of, they're kind of like you know, a lot of culture comes out of prisons, and all the you know, all the forces that are kind of operating in society at large are happening there, but they're happening in a much tighter space, a much more compressed space. So,
much more dangerous place.
Yeah, well, usually. I mean, danger becomes an element of it just because, you know, for whatever reason. But I mean, you know, you've got territory, power, money, sex, drugs. I mean, you know, and just, it's just in this very, very tight space, and it's trying to work it out, and then you've got that sort of testosterone element, and you know, quite often sort of, you know, undereducated element, and it's just, or I don't know if that's a word, undereducated, but you know what I'm saying. So, but at the same time, it creates, you know, there's a level of kind of ingenuity and invention in there, and just sheer need, and just sheer kind of will, just to kind of get through that experience. It's really interesting too. There's a lot of very intelligent people in there as well. So it was just, you know, talked to them, year and a half of just going back and forth. I went down there, shot a little bit of footage for them for just for their records and things like that, and developed, you know, kind of a working relationship with the warden and some of the deputy wardens. I think that, you know, the 16 of those all together, or actually maybe a few more, a few less. But so it was, you know, it was just, and then to get in there. Again, I mean, it was a gift, you know, to get in there. I mean, I have another film that I've got a few scripts, but one is about a CO. So I may well go back to them and see if we can kind of, you know, expand that. I mean, I ended up shooting there for 5 days, I think, or 5.5 days. But I'd kind of love to do maybe like this isn't you know, it's not a prison film, and there was always a question even with this film: is this a prison film or is it not a prison film? Or, you know, it's like, and some people got a little disoriented at first, thinking, you know, because the first 20 minutes of it are boom, they're in this prison, and then he's out. But anyway, yeah. So.
Well, I think to kind of close, it reminded me of 25th Hour in that element of
which I haven't seen.
Oh, you should. It's about a man going back to prison, so it's like the opposite.
Yeah.
But that's what I loved about it. You've made a hell of a ballsy feature, and
yeah, I mean, it's and, you know, sometimes I'm like, what the hell is this thing? But it's
Well, thank you for bringing it to Dallas. I know Dallas audiences will will enjoy it. For a Southern audience to see this type of film, and we all know about it, but we don't necessarily know about it. And I think that's what your film shows. The real side of it, and it's honest and truthful. So thank you very much,
Good.
Nicholas.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.